Hello everybody and welcome to another tutorial and in camera and lens repair. And also Happy New Year to everybody, so we will have a good, a better year 2021. But now to something subject. 7 years ago I made a video about the sticky aperture blades in the Ai-s Micro-Nikkor 55mm 2.8. So this will be an update of the video I made in 2013, which was maybe a little fast. Of course, it was the equipment I have at that time, but now it will be in full HD. So and I speak at the same time I made this video. I cannot really figure out how to make a video of and then speech after. So I think it works better to me. Now this lens, which looks absolutely great, the aperture seems a little slow in a way. So I think, okay, there's a reason I could make another video with more details in the speech and how you have to make things. Now let's get some tools. It's really good idea to get some dentist tool, especially one of those with a very pointy tip. It doesn't matter which brand it is, and especially about those with a kind of a spade which is very thin. This is an old one. Those are both old, but it's really thin, so it's good to, in many ways, dig under something, which could be blades, and then the other end is a different angle. Now we also need some screwdrivers, which I think this is a Japanese lens, which it says something where. Doesn't really say anything about where. Oh, sorry. It's here. You see, made in Japan. So that's why we need some JIS screwdrivers. In this case, I will use most of the time a 2.5mm and maybe also a 2.0mm. Those are from Moody Tools, which I buy at ifixit.com. No, I am not sponsored at all. We also need a tweezer, or two, or maybe three. This is a special homemade, which I have made to be extremely thin, so I can actually put in the blades, which you will see sooner, in a very easy way. I could also use my small lens sucker thingy from this called from Nordson something. I don't know if you can get them, but search for lens sucker. You will find that. Some cotton buds is also very handy. A microfiber lens cloth is also a good thing when cleaning the blades. I use a Orbit HEPA blower, which is extremely good because there is a HEPA filter on, so there was only come air outside here. Now we also need some cleaning fluid, which will be, in my case, Isopropylalcohol 99%. You could also use 80 or probably 70 or so, but don't go too low in the amount of alcohol that's in. Now it's not that hard to get into, but we need to have some notes on it. So off with the cap. We need to take off the 3 screws around here on the back, and that the whole lens assembly with the aperture will simply come out. Well, not yet. I will begin with take off the mount, and then of course inside here somewhere there are 3 screws more, that hold the lens assembly. So the screws here can be extremely tight. So in that case, you could use some nail polish remover with acetone. It should be with acetone because it does not really work. Some use isopropylalcohol, 99% or so, to soften the thread lock. It works sometimes, in my opinion, but if the screws are too tight, well, you simply, of course I have been into the lens before, so it is not really a problem, but it can over time sit quite tight. So you simply add a little nail polish remover on the screw, and I mean, we could just add a little more. Let it just be, I mean, you should add 1 or 2 drops will work on the directly on the screw. It will, the nail polish remover will search under the screw because it's not tight at all. So it will search on and under it and soften the thread lock, which could be there. Maybe, maybe not. And you just do it with all 3, and then you should be fine with that. Now, so we just do so, and I mean, when you use a JIS, the screwdriver will fit perfect, so you do not need to press too hard on it. And if you use a Phillips screwdriver, you could, I mean, you possibly will damage the screw head if it's too tight. So it's the JIS, as you can see here, hopefully. JIS, it should be the correct screwdriver. And most lenses today are actually from Japan or Asia or somewhere, and they use the JIS screws. Some out with those 3. Set it on the aperture to 32 in this case, so it's fully closed. The distance, set it to infinity, because then it will just be much easier to work with. Okay, yeah, we're out for that. Everything has to be with. So the pin here, which is the connection, as you can see here, it will, when we take it out, be sure how it's actually put in, so it does not sit on this. It will not work, so it has to sit on this side, so you can push on it. That's important. So out with that. And now, just to, I mean, it's always good to have some kind of backup. So in this case, you need to set some mark or scratch or whatever it's called. There is some kind of a guide pin here that you do not at all adjust. If the aperture is good, don't turn this at all. It has to be just like there. Now, set a mark here somewhere. I have been in here before, but set a mark here and there so they are in line. And you can also do the other over here and here somewhere, just so you have an idea of where does the mount here, or the focusing assembly, sit when you put in the lens assembly. Now, so that keep that in mind. Now also there are 3 screws here. It will say this one here, and this one. Those has to be unscrewed fully. and then we can come into the other screws when I pull out the whole lens assembly with the Aperture system. So this out, they are quite long, so, and they sometimes they will just follow out because of the magnetic screwdriver, which is quite good. But they have also used some kind of nail polish, or not really thread lock, but they just use a kind of a lacquer to lock the screw head. And you could do the same with some nail polish. So you should have it like this, so it will not I mean, when you unscrew the last screw, the whole thing will just fall out. So have a good grip here, so you are safe. So out with the last screw, and that's it. The Aperture 32 Infinity, and that's fine. Now you can just press on the back here, but keep in mind that the this side over here, which is the fork, I mean, there's a long gap here that makes the I mean, if I could turn it, yeah, just to show you how it looks inside. So if it's possible to focus out, I mean, set it to near end, you will see what's going on here. You see, it goes all the way down here. If you want to take out the lens assembly at the moment, as it is now, it will be more difficult than set it to infinity. So we just set it to infinity. It will be much easier. There's no need for taking off the aperture ring. I mean, if it's sticky or so, you could just take it out, and it sits with 2 screws. And it also holds this fork here, or piece of metal. I don't know the name of it because I don't have the service manual for this lens. Now let's continue. We can just take it out now and just push it gently. And you have to, when you take it out, it will be something like that. So you not just pull it out. So we take it out, and you can see it comes out in that way. So if I do this kind of movement, the pin, as you can see down here, this pin will come out of the gap here, especially if you do something like this. So to put it back in again, remember the aperture has to be closed, I mean at 32. So you will simply just put it in and catch the gap. And I will show you one. There are some things to be aware of. But okay, don't turn this. You just have to pull it out, and that's it. But it's important it sits on infinity. Make sure. Good. Now out with that, and we just pull it out. Bend it a little, and then I should be able to take it out. And that's how it looks inside here. Now, next thing is, which is important. I set some mark here, and that's important because this bring here is actually the inner helicoid, which if it's not necessary, you should not go in there. I mean, I have made another video how about to take apart the inner helicoid if it's sticky or you want to re-grease it. Now, the aperture assembly sits around here, only this part here, and it sits with 3 screws, small screws. It will say this one, and this one. Now, before even think about take it out, we need to set a mark so you have an idea of where you are when you put it back in again, so you not put it in wrong. So you simply, before unscrew the 3 screws, you simply set a mark here, so it's in line, so you know the position, because the holes here that hold the aperture assembly here, it's long holes, so it will say it's possible to adjust it a little if it's necessary. But if no one have been into the lens, you should set a mark here, because the repair manual, if there is something, which I think, it will probably not tell anything about how to set, adjust it. Maybe not. Since I do not have it, I need to make my own reference, which I recommend you to do so. Now, off with the 3 screws, and sits here. Out with that. I mean, the holes are not long, it's not that, but they are bigger, so they can be adjusted a little. The screws are a bit long, so. And remember how this sit here. So if it goes over here, oh gosh, what's going on? Okay, don't be afraid about that, because we can just pull this out, or I can push over here. No, it doesn't work. I need to push this out and then put this back again, so there is a kind of a, not really a notch, something, but it cannot go any further there, so it had to sit there. So just so you know where things should sit. Now off with the last screw, and then we are directly into the aperture assembly. So out with that. And then it's also good to set a mark here, somewhere close, in line with this kind of a key. So if you by accident has come to move this all the way, okay, what's then? Because when you put it in again, this one has to sit correct when the focusing is set at infinity, because this key, something like that, will go into the notch here, this notch. There is only one here, this is the only one, and it has to go in there so everything will sit lined up proper. Yeah. So out with the aperture. That's quite simple. And here we have it. There seems to be some oil on here, or whatever it is. So we can just put this aside. Now, to go into the plates itself, there are 2 screws here on the back. It will say this screw, this screw. And before we take anything apart, we also need to go here on the back and set some marks. I mean, just in case something is not lined up. But it should not be necessary. Yeah, it should be. So it's good when the mark I set here earlier, you could also set a mark here. So it sits in line there. So now I know exactly position of this, and nothing can really be screwed up that way. So to get the blades out, we need to release this spring. So there, unhook it. That's it. Well, it will just sit there, but maybe it's better to just take it off, in case if it falls on the floor. It's not good. Now, open the aperture and flip it over. And we need a stand or something to put it on. And I think one of those for lens cleaning. You could also use the rubber, rubber cones here. So it can fit on here. Something maybe it's a little too big. Or maybe this one. Well, it seems to work. Now, then everything is in place, and I can actually unscrew the 2 screws which sit there and there, and take that off. So when I lift off the very back part here with the lens in, and this is facing down in the rubber cone here, I can the aperture blades will simply sit in this mount, kind of. So we will see what's happened there. Yeah, I forgot it was those holes here, with the 2 small screws. That was long holes, so that's why it is good to have some kind of mark here on the back, which I set here, so I know the exact position how this aperture assembly will sit. So off with the next screw, and then we can take it apart. So now, then it should work. There's also mentioned there's a gap here. This gap, this pin should sit there. So, and we can just hold it down here and press it here, and then lift up the aperture, so it's looks like something like that. Nothing really special. I can see there is some kind of trace of oil here, which I can just wipe away with a cotton bud, and I could also use some isopropylalcohol and simply clean it away, because the oil there, it's only come from the focusing system. That's the only place it can come from. So maybe it's time for do the re-grease the focusing system, which I have made another video about. this lens. So now that's it. That looks fine. The rest of the assembly here, which we can also see how it works. Oh gosh, it's very thin and very light, but hopefully we'll do so. This is just to show you how it, when it works. So, and come on, little aperture plates, just put it. And also the other one. So now we can see how it works as it should. So if I move the aperture ring, and so it works like it should. Now begin with it. I mean, when you take out the plates, I will fully drop it into the isopropylalcohol, and also this ring that holds the plates. And of course, I mean, not of course, but this part here can only sit, oh gosh, autofocus. This part here can only sit in one position because of this pin here. It goes through the gap here, which you can see here. So, and there are traces of oil. So we just drop it in. Now take off blades, and I'll just push it out a little so it will be easier to access, because then I put out those there. Come on. Yeah, there are some oil. I mean, the plates are a little sticky, so just take out. Be very careful and not pull too hard, because the pin here that goes through the plates, I mean, the plates are really thin. Oh gosh. So this is how it looks. Remember the direction of the blades. So there. And something like that. And I will also drop this ring into the isopropylalcohol, because there's some, it's a bit sticky. So, and you can see there are traces of oil here around this ring. Now put it in and have a little bath here. It will just sit there for a little, and I will just take a pause, a moment, and so it has sit there for a few minutes. That should be enough, and I will just use an old t-shirt, which is really good. It has been washed so many times, so it's actually working really good for dry the I mean, wipe away the rest of the oil or whatever it is. So it's also good to have a good cleaning around this area here where the blades have full contact on. And also, of course, here on the back, it will have to be no liquid left, and then it looks fine again. And so then we I will take up the plates, which has been there for a few minutes, and also this ring here has to be cleaned, because the edge, if there is oil on the edge of the of this ring, it will go against the edge here and be some kind of sticky. So that's why it is important to wipe away all the oil and also the isopropylalcohol. So now it looks much better. And then time to wipe the plates. And I think it's good to have this tweezer. It's good because then you can pull it at the same time. You hold one of the pin gently, of course. So, and now they look fine here on the back. Especially it's important to this pin here, this tiny pin here, which there could be some trace of oil, and it will get the sticky hole. It will say those holes here. So that's important too. When I made the video in 2013, I could of course not say anything about it, because there was the videos I made at that time was actually pictures put together by the computer as a motion lapse video kind of. But now you look at a full HD video, which is much better. So there it will be really good. I mean, if you do not have this kind of a tweezer, I could also show it in that way. But a normal kind of thin, I mean sharp pointed tweezer is not. But this one is really much easier to when putting in the plates, which I will show you. But you can see it's not that easy to grab the, so this one is much better. So there, and the second last one. If there is much more oil on them, on the plates, you can probably just let them stay for a longer time. And again, I mean, what material is the plates actually? Well, I think they, as I remember, I think they are made of metal, but you can just check. So if they are made of metal, yeah, you'll see it's magnetic, so it's made of metal. So that was it. Away with that. And then it's time to put in the plates, and everything looks really good. And I just begin with the first one, and then you put the next one in counterclockwise direction. So there. Find the holes. It can sometimes be a little tricky. So maybe I can zoom in a little. So there. Then the next one. And this one. Okay, there. And the second last one. Now, to get the last blade in, it can be a little tricky, because I simply need to push out the first one, so the hole here for the last blade will show, so I can see it. Then I should be able to put in this one, the last blade. Sometimes it's better to use two tweezers. Get it on here. Catch the hole there. And you see, the two blades will not touch each other. I mean, this blade here and this blade will not touch each other. So that's come another dentist tool versus the spade, really thin. Or you could also use a pointy tool, whatever it is, and simply move it. At the same time we lift it up a little so it comes over. Come on, little fellow. So there. And there it is, free. And then I can push the first blade in. And it's not good with the magnetized tool. So, and you just go around. So all the blades make a hole, full hole. So the blades are aligned, all of them. There, something there. So now I should be able to put the ring on. And remember how it should face. I mean, it should sit. This pin where the spring goes, I mean, sits here on this ring. It has to go through the, I mean, yeah, it sits on the other side of this one here. So put it on gently and catch the holes so they will sit proper. It can be a little tricky to put in, but we will manage, hopefully. So see, you can just press very gently on it and catch the pins with a pointy tool. So there, and then it sits. And as you can see, it works perfect. So we can just set it to fully closed. And then put on the back lens group, so it will sit as it should. Align the two holes here with this hole here and the other hole, and you also have the gap here where this pin goes through. So, and it's there. So there, and click, it goes into place. And we can just have an idea, will it work or not? Well, since we missed the spring, I will just put in the two screws so I have a so it's fully tightened and will not fall apart. So there. Oh, sorry. Now, and here we are, almost there. It's I think I missed something. You might see this pin here has to sit on the correct side of a pin on the aperture ring. So see this pin here, it has to fully open and close the aperture, but it will not because it sits on the wrong side. So this pin in here, oh gosh, this pin here, it sits on the wrong side, so I need to open it again. It's not a problem, but gently take it apart. So and so now push it down here and then you can lift it up. Oh gosh, you see this little pin here, it has to sit in the correct position, so maybe I have to fully open the aperture, because then this pin will sit on the correct side. So if we turn it over, the pin has to sit all the way over there, and then put it back in again. So there it is, and then we can tighten the screws again and then align the aperture plates, the aperture ring that move the plates. So don't fully tighten those two screws, just gently tighten so you still can adjust, make your adjustment in reference to your mark here. So if it sits not correct, you can still make your adjustment, especially if I lose the screws a little. So you can see it's possible to move the aperture if it's not sit correct. And now I can should be able to actually get this back to normal. So there, and I can, so we just take it again. If I have a fully closed aperture, my tweezer, you cannot move this, but I have to open this fully, move this pin out. I should be able to do that. If we do so, I move this and it will also move the pin, and in that way I can turn this ring here and get it into correct position. Then close the blades again, and then this part here will also move into correct position. Then align the mark here, and then tighten the screw. Where's my screwdriver? Oh gosh. So there. And then the other screw. So, and now it sits correct. Then the spring that sits here on the back can come in. One end sits over the little brass pin here. Just put it over there. And then the other end, of course, has to sit on the little pin here. Oh gosh, it's good to have a finger on here, because if the spring just move, well, it can be a little tricky to put it in. So the dent is a very flat one, thin. I can just do so, and no. Okay. It's just a spring. It has to come on. Sometimes they... So, here we are. And then the aperture is back in again, and can be, it's much better. And it can also move. If I move the aperture connection pin to the inside the long fork here, so I can just put it back into the lens, the front lens part. And where does my mark is? Somewhere here, there. So, and that's the correct position. Then I can put in my 3 screws. It was not those. And this one. So you can see it's not that hard to get the to clean the blades. I mean, if you have the correct tools, which will basically be a JIS screwdriver, a tweezer, and there you're going. So now it sits where they should, and I can fully tighten all 3 screws gently. The screws are small, so there is no need for over tighten them. And there it is. So remember, it has to sit here. I mean, the aperture has to sit like this, not fully open or something in between. Much better. Now, the only thing I miss is the, as you remember, the aperture ring to 32, the focusing to infinity, and then I should be able to slide the whole lens aperture assembly in. And this pin here has to go in the gap here this gap here. And where is it? There, yeah. Okay. So you put it in like this, catch the pin in here. Oh. Catch the pin in here, and you should be able to slide it in, maybe a little wiggle, a little, so it's fully pressed in. Then the guide pin here will also sit in the notch. It will say the front here cannot move at all. So the only way it can only sit in one position. Then put in the 3 screws, then the mount, and then we are done. I could also, if I would like to do it, I could also use some nail polish or thread lock, or not really thread lock, but only nail polish here on the screw head, so it will not loosen itself. But it's not a problem for me. I mean, I can just disassemble the lens if something is wrong. But maybe in your case, it would be a good thing to do. Forget everything about super glue. Not at all. You will not be able to unscrew it anyway. So just use some nail polish or varnish. Gently tighten the screws, and that's it. Then we have it back on track. And the only thing I need to do is put in the mount. And remember, this side of the pin has to go on this side of this pin here. So you move it. Then put it straight in. Catch the holes. You see you can move the mount a little. And but it can only sit here. It's not possible to turn it one way or the other way. Then put in the 3 screws, and then we are ready to take some pictures, photos. So the last one, and here we have a happy lens again. So there you can see it's much better now, and it can be fully open and closed, and you can also focus to near end, and at 32 aperture the aperture is working as they should. So that was all for me in this case. Hope you can use the info. So see you sooner in more videos. Bye bye.